This is the instructional video for changing the drive shaft and/or pulley on an RLC2000 Series conveyor system. Always remove power from the system before you begin any maintenance work. First, use a 1/4-inch Allen wrench to loosen the two 5/16 socket cap take-up screws on the infeed end of the conveyor until the pulley is all the way loose. This will loosen the tension on the belt. Take the 4 3/8 hex bolts that hold the gearbox to the drive end bearing block out with a 9/16 open-ended wrench and remove the gearbox and motor as one unit from the system. Wipe off the never sees from the keyway and the shaft. Then, using a 3/16 Allen wrench, loosen the 1/4-inch socket cap screws in the collar to remove both the collar and the key from the drive shaft. Loosen the set screws in the outer bearing on the non-motor side using an 1/8-inch Allen wrench. Be sure the wrench is seated all the way in the set screw, as these are easy to strip out. Remove the 4 3/8 hex bolts that mount the drive block to the side frame and remove the drive block. Loosen the two set screws in the bearing pressed into the motor side drive block using an 1/8-inch Allen wrench. Carefully slide the belt over so that the V-guide is out of the groove in the drive pulley, and remove the drive pulley and shaft. To change the drive shaft, you'll need to loosen the two 5/16 set screws in the pulley using a 1/4-inch Allen wrench. To replace a drive pulley or install a new drive shaft, you'll first need to ensure that the shaft is centered properly in the pulley. On the non-motor side of your pulley, there should be 3 9/16 inch from the end of the shaft to the base of the pulley. With the drive shaft in place, tighten down the two 5/16 set screws in the pulley. Reinsert the pulley unit into the system, taking care to avoid damaging the V-guide on the belt. Be sure that the pulley is installed in the correct orientation, with the 3 9/16 end being the non-motor side of the conveyor, and that the V-guide is seated properly in the groove on the drive pulley once the unit is reinstalled. Slide the non-motor side drive block you previously removed back onto the 3 9/16 end of the drive shaft, making sure the end of the shaft is flush with the outside of the bearing, and tighten the set screws in the bearing. It is important that one set screw is tightened on the flat of the shaft and the other is not in the keyway. Using the 3/8-inch hex bolts, mount the drive block back onto the side frame. With the drive block mounted, tighten the two set screws in the bearing pressed into the motor side drive block, again ensuring that one of them is on the flat and the other is not in the keyway. Retension the 5/16 take-up screws on the infeed end evenly until the belt is properly tensioned again. It should have just a little bit of droop to ensure that it isn't over-tensioned. During this, make sure the V-guide stays seated in the grooves in both the drive and take-up pulleys. Rotate the drive pulley by hand a few times to ensure it moves smoothly and the belt is aligned in the center of the side frames. Place the key back into the keyway and the drive shaft flush with the end. Slide the collar back over the shaft to the end of the key and tighten the two 1/4-inch socket cap screws. Reapply never seize to the shaft and key, then slide the motor and gearbox assembly back onto the system and tighten down the 4 3/8 hex bolts that hold the gearbox to the drive block. We recommend running the system at a low speed at the start to be sure everything is aligned properly and the belt is seated in the pulleys as it should be. Once we've confirmed everything is properly aligned and running smoothly, we can resume operation as normal.